The way I work on things, for instance, when I work on scales, I just want to make sure that I don't have any stuck files, so I play it properly. Simple major scale. let's say, second door. Told me, all right, you are the saxophonist, how do you call it, like first alto, the leading alto, and you also the rest of the big band. So it will sound. Did it ever happen to you that you kind of were not as happy with jazz as you thought you were before? You always love jazz. Okay, it happens to a lot of jazz musicians, to a lot of because we're doing it all the time. So then, and it's a good thing, because when it happens, we start to look for other avenues. When you hate something, it's a brilliant thing, even if it's your partner. You try other partners, and then if you come back, it means that you... I don't know. Anyway, this is beyond my expertise, but at a certain stage, it's not at a certain stage, it happened to me quite a few times in my life. I kind of said, I like music. I'm not sure that jazz is what I like. I went into tango, I went into Arabic music. And when I was around my 30s, I met a drummer that came from my country. We never played, my own band. And we never played in Israel together, but we met in London, and it was a very strong bond, and we decided to try to play Middle Eastern music and to combine it with improvisation. And I decided to play Arabic music. And I was quite shocked because I couldn't. It was very, very difficult for me. Which was amazing because everywhere you go in Palestine, you hear, am I right, Rishi? You hear Kulthum. You hear Arabic music, it's there all the time. And nothing came in. And it was amazing for me because I can play in so many different styles. And I decided to start to dig into it. So, I'm sorry, I'm on the wrong pedal, maybe. Wrong pedal. the microtonality was deliberate. And one of the things that I realized that I find it very difficult to play in tune, so Arabic music was perfect for me. No. The thing is, I could never figure out how to get this sound. I could hear the microtonality, but I couldn't really compartmentalize it to understand how to produce it, from a Western instrument. This is a normal clarinet. And what I found was that that the voice is elementary in this process of finding your own color. And why? Because when you manage to get there with your voice, whether it is when you play a Louis Armstrong tune, and you play the saxophone or the trumpet or the bone or the guitar, you get this, you internalize the true nature of the music. When I decided to be a jazz musician, there were no real books. The real books were just coming. I think the first one from America. There were no omnibooks when you buy a book with Charlie Parker or Michael Brecker, all solos. And guess what? There was no YouTube. Not only that there was no YouTube, if you wanted to listen to Charlie Parker, you had to go to a shop and to buy it. And if you were lucky, then there were tape cassettes, you could record it for someone. But it was a rare thing. So you start to play jazz, and you have one album, or two, three, and you just listen to them, and you know them by heart. I don't know how you can do it nowadays, because there is so much there, and so much bullshit as well. How do you fall? This is something that Matthias Winkelmann from Enya Record told me. I told him, listen man, I want to make many albums a year. I cannot make one album every 18 months. He told me, no, you can't. I told him, why? Charlie Parker did it, you know. They went to the studio every 3 months, sometimes twice a week, and make an album. I can do the same. He said, but then, there were very few people who played the music. Now everybody plays it. And everybody can record. And there is a lot of stuff there. So you make an album, and you wait for the record company to make the money back. That you never see it, by the way. But, and there are no record company anywhere. It's a different story. What I'm telling you, we had very few albums. My teachers were Russians, and they had cupboards with full transcription. They had like 4 and more or whatever kind of blue. One of my teachers, he wrote the whole album. And if you listen to Charlie Parker or Train and you transcribe it and you sing it, you have it. You own it. The one thing that I see all the time now, and I don't even choose, they know that in YouTube, they realize that I'm interested in music and bicycle, so they send me videos all the time, you know. So I get videos about 2 bars in Michael Breger's solo in an album that I never heard of. And the guy speaks about it for 15 minutes or half an hour, and he sees that not one chord works with. And I can assure you that this is not the way Michael Breger thought about it, or the way any musician think, any proper musician that play proper music. As I mentioned, these greatest musicians were not particularly educated in jazz. They learned to hear the music. When I play a tune, I don't think of the chords. I don't have to. The chords are the chords are here in a subconscious level. Yeah, because I internalized it. The next questions that you want to ask yourself is, how do we internalize standards? And when we internalize a standard, we can play it in all keys, because it's part of our organic thing. And different ideas will come in different keys. How would you internalize the standards? How do you do it? So it becomes your own, and you can do whatever you like with it.
Analyze the basic structure and play it first very simple.
This is too theoretical for me. It's good to analyze things.
Sing it.
Sing it. Sing it is a great way, yeah?
Learn the melody first.
Sing it, learn the melody. Yeah? The next thing that you want to do, there are many ways to do it. One way is that I always tell my students, you can play 1, 3, and 7. You can hear all the thing you are, yeah? You can do. That's 3 and 7. A great way, I follow your line of thought, the great way to play. Giorgos, can you play with me for a second?
Sure.
A great way is just to play around the melody, not even to look at the harmony. Have you ever tried to do that? This will be probably the closest thing to an early jazz. All the things. 1, 2, 3. Just play around the melody, and it's perfect. And the same thing to be able to sing it. 1, 2, 3. The other thing, great. The other thing, let's do the big bend. We have a big band expert. He spent many years in playing. I'll be the saxophone, and then I'll sing all the other instruments. 1, 2, 3. It's around the melody. I don't do anything too flashy. But by the time I do it, it would work. Now you can do it as more than one person. You know the thing you are? Who else know all the thing you are? Let's, you. Okay, come to stage. I hope that the keys, okay. Let's all sing it together. We sing it together, and we try to find, we play around the melody, and we support each other. Okay? One, you want to give us an introduction? Okay, well, it's not bad.
Yeah.
The truth of the matter is that we practice it all night, till 6 o'clock in the morning, and this is why we're a bit tired. Now, what I heard is that there was a bit of time issue. There were a bit of time issue, so let's do 4. 1, 2, 1. Big, big, it's not complicated, huh? And it sounds like this. Almost.
Sounds like the
Now, the issue here is that I bet that most of you don't practice while singing, except the singers. By the way, singers should do the opposite. Should buy a saxophone. By the way, this one is for sale. No, it's not. All right? Singers should have an instrument at hand. Now, let's try to do just the two of us singing, playing, but I need you closer because I don't hear you singing, you're shy.
Oh, very sweet.
1 and 2, and First thing, that their partners are working. And you know what is a homeless jazz musician? Is one that was dumped by his or her partner. But the most unique thing about jazz musicians is that they cannot read music. I mean, now we can because we have to. Can you read? A little bit. You know, for years when there was a gig with reading, well, maybe you take someone else. Yeah? Pete Churchill used to teach in these schools, and he used to say, when I was young, when Pete was young, he said, the people who could read music went to the Royal Academy. Went to the Royal Academy, and those who couldn't read music stay at home and learn how to play the jazz. This is what it is. I'm not telling you to forget about your reading. It's a useful tool. But jazz is about the ears, the internal ear, the ability to bring to light your own sound. Now I want to tell you one thing, and then I'll allow you to ask a few questions if you need to. This is something that is interesting. Nicolas Meier is here, because you were part of my realization. No, I thought that you were a bank robber, but now I realize that we played together before. One of my students, who is a very, very good musician, he just studied saxophone with me, but he's actually a way better musician than me, told me once that the most interesting period in jazz artists is the transition. The moment that they look for new things. And I never understood it fully. But I knew that there was something there. When you listen to Coltrane, when he developed these ideas, when it comes and it's all perfect, it starts to sound like an exercise. And the same happened to me, in a way, with Arabic music. It's not my music. I struggled with it. And I developed it in my band, and I developed how can you combine it with improvisation and so on and so on. And it was a lot of fun, but I knew that I wasn't playing it right. I was already praised in the German press and the English press, and they said, what an Arab, he used to fight with them, now the Guardian, now he plays with them. All this bullshit. But I felt that the music wasn't, when you do something and you know that you're not doing it well. And so I was kind of I felt very insecure about it. And there were 2 points that I remember in this process that I went through. Do you know Robert Wyatt? Some of you probably know Robert Wyatt. Robert Wyatt invited me for a recording, and he wanted me to play. He had it on the track. He recorded it on the I think it was still 2-inch on the multi-track. He had a tune by Aman Murgus, a Palestinian singer, and he wanted me to play exactly her singing. And this was a nightmare. A nightmare because it's like, and I had to learn it sometime 8 by 8. Because he really wanted it exactly the same. To emulate the voice. And at the end of the session, I was kind of in a rush. I had a concert in Birmingham. He gave the engineer gave me a CD, and on the way back to London in the night, 12 hours later, I don't know, I told the band, listen, I recorded today with Robert Wyatt, and it was really frustrating session. It was very hard for me, but I want to listen to it. it was the first time that I heard that I actually played the Arabic music. It sounded like Arabic, but I knew that it wasn't from me, that I kind of really was listening, singing. She is singing something, I emulated in the voice and then finding the quarter notes. You understand? It's not ba-da-dee, it's quarter, sometimes quarter notes, 8 notes, it's macro tonality. The next time, I never told you, the next time that we recorded an album, 1 or 2 albums in Freiburg, and it was one of your tunes, and I play my Arabic solo, and I went to the control, and I said, wow, this really started to sound like, to my ears, maybe not, I can tell you that what sounds to me good is not necessarily good. It sounded to me like Turkish. And it was the first time that I kind of wasn't embarrassed. However, when I listen to my work in perspective, the time that I was struggling with it is way more interesting, because by the time I learned to play Turkish like a Turk, I sound like a Turk, I got nothing. It's boring. There are Turks who are doing it already for 3,000 years. All right? So you always want to keep yourself on the edge of struggling to internalize a sound. There is always a sound to listen to try to incorporate. And I'm doing it probably for more years than most of you. And Spiro is my roommate, and he can hear that every day I kind of try to look into a kind of different sound, pentatonic, hexatonic. I take chain of chords and I go around them in all keys and explore and sing and do it always very, very slowly. This is how you develop vocabulary, authenticity, and a personal voice. You sound like no one else. Now, sounding like no one else, sometimes it's very good, sometimes it's very bad, but it will know later. All right, questions? Yeah.
What would you say is the difference between finding your own voice and then getting stuck with that voice? So you say, oh, I found my own voice, but I keep repeating what I'm always playing. It's still your own voice, isn't it?
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of the question I thought.
It's a good question. As I just said, your own voice can be slightly boring even for yourself. I don't say that this is your case, but I'll tell you something that is quite embarrassing. You know, they say that every composer composed basically 3 tunes. And we still have, though we didn't play now because of COVID for 2 years. We had 1 concert in November in the festival, and then they closed us again. So I basically composed 3 tunes, and I managed to produce, I don't know, 12 albums with the Orient House with these 3 tunes in different versions. But it's just 3 tunes. And the truth of the matter is that I really got bored with myself. And I said, okay, I'll do a tribute to Charlie Parker. And it was very successful because I wasn't very good at it. All right? So I said, oh man, he changed some things, you know, I just didn't manage to. But this is the way, you know, when you are bored with yourself, you challenge yourself. To be a musician, I think Miles Davis said it, is to attempt to reinvent yourself once a day. And it is possible. It is possible. It happened to me one day. And no, it is possible. It is possible. And if you don't have enough time to dedicate to it, once a week. It doesn't happen often. Jim, how often does it happen to you that you really shock yourself in a gig?
It happens a lot after I haven't played for a long time.
Yeah, but it's not something that is under our control. It's not something. No, it's something that I remember doing kind of every night for 10 years, it would happen to me once every 6 months. Now, because we don't play a lot, the COVID period, we don't play musicians. I mean, we are starving, and some of us, you can see some of us in the street of Saarwellingen kind of begging for food. But no, it is not necessarily a bad thing for music and for musicians. All right? So the answer is, you're bored, it's good. It means that your system is begging for an uplift, for a change.
Gilad, do you mind if I just add one thing?
Yeah.
Totally agree with that. I think it's also about, in my experience, it's also about input, which is what I think why for me I have the feeling of being fresh if I haven't played for a long time, because I'm processing other things that I've heard. Yeah. So that thing about connecting your ears to your playing, it's about what you listen to, it's about how you feed your imagination and how you feed your knowledge of music.
Of course. And this is something that all of you should know by now. What I'm saying, all those years we tell people to transcribe, and I still think that transcribing is a great experience. But even when you transcribe something, sing it. Sing it. If you sing it, you own it. Because if you sing it and then you play it wrongly, you will know. If it's on the book and you play it wrong, you won't know. Sing solos with other people, then sing it without them. Another thing that Charlie Parker didn't have, and he complained about it, is I Will Pro. He didn't have I Will Pro. So what he did, he was working on Blues for Alice. Enzo said yesterday. Green Pass Road, Dolphin Street. Green Pass Dolphinstraße. The thing is play without I will Pro. Without -1. There was no Jamie Eversole for John Coltrane. He played like that. This is the way. When you do that, you hear the changes. The changes become part of your... Yeah? Yeah.
Do you always have something to say?
About COVID? Or about music? I generally always have something to say. Always. Always. But about music, you mean? Okay.
Like in your own voice?
No, there are some styles of music that I struggle with. Always struggle, and will always struggle. And I won't tell you what they are. You can figure out, and you tell me in the last. No, for instance, I'm not particularly good in a lot of young musicians now. They give you charts, and I cannot see or cannot hear the connection between chords. I don't hear it. I used to say that I struggle with Wayne Shorter, but it's not. I can handle Wayne Shorter. I can hear the kind of, it's different scales there. But, and also, I like odd rhythm, but I don't like odd rhythms when I have to call my accountant and to ask him where is the one. This is really frustrating. And then, obviously, I would have less to say, because I would be, when I played, I would be shattered by an anxiety. Everybody here in this room sensed before this thing that you play a tune and you feel on a shaky ground. You know what I'm talking about? And every musician has this kind of thing, that we don't feel totally secure. Am I right, Enzo? No, the problem with you is that you never feel shaky. You just make mistakes and you don't even notice. And the good thing about it is that nobody else noticed, because he's very... No, but you know, Jimmy...
Of course,
yeah. There is always a place where we are close to the envelope. Now, one way around it is to learn to fake it, which is what I do. But what serious musicians do, what we should do is to say, this is where we start today. This is where we start today. And you realize I wasn't born with giant steps. When I heard it, I thought, what the fuck is it? Is it crazy? What? It's amazing. How did he get to this? And listen, I looked at it the first time, I said, how the chords relate to each other. And it took me a few years, and I can play, over giant steps now for probably one chorus easily, like as long as I want. Another thing, it's too easy. Make it in 7/8. Too easy. Make it in 5. Yeah, you can do it. It's not easy. There is always, with every standard, there is always the breaking point where I say, I don't know what's the time. Huh? I don't remember even what time we have to stop. 10:35. So we have time, I think, for one more question if... yeah.
I was always thought that if you wanted to achieve mastery of any subject, whether you wanted to be a theoretical musician, or whether you want to be a musician, or whether you want to be a painter, it takes 10,000 hours to achieve mastery. That's independent of anything that you want to achieve.
Yeah.
Now, what I've always thought is that Jamie Aebersold and those kind of teachings try to create shortcuts in the 10,000 hours. And from what I understand, what you're saying is that that's not working.
I don't think that there are shortcuts. There are no shortcuts. What we have instead, and I don't know if you were here in the beginning, but I said it last year, so you probably heard me saying it. What I say instead, identify your problems and concentrate on them, using your brain, developing the tactics that will take you farther. This is not a shortcut. It's actually climbing the mountain in the most difficult place, but doing it in a very controlled way. Yeah? If you do that, it won't take you 10,000 hours. It may take you 1 month. Whether you are going to be John Coltrane, I'm not so sure. Even John Coltrane wasn't sure that he was John Coltrane. Okay? But it will, our project as jazz artists, as human beings maybe, before COVID, was to try to be as great as we can in whatever we like to do. This is the project. So if you will be as great as you can be as a saxophonist, or you'll be on the path, this is a lot. This is a lot. And this is what I try to do. I'm not John Coltrane, and I can already say now that John Coltrane is not Gilad Atzmon. Lucky him. No, but this is what I try to do. I try to be as John Coltrane as I can, not to copy John Coltrane. Coltrane was always going somewhere. He was always in a constant transition. Some people here played kind of on stages in festivals near to Michael Brecker. Did it happen to you, or you are probably too young?
Yeah, not Brecker.
Not Brecker. The Randy.
Wayne?
Wayne, no, but I mentioned Brecker for a reason, because I was 24 years old, and I played in a festival, and we kind of played the slot before, and then I think it was the Brecker brothers, or maybe Steps, I don't remember, but this Brecker, he came and he played, you know, he could play the saxophone, and it was in the Red Sea Festival. And, you know, it's like 45 degrees during the day and maybe 39 in the night. And when we finished the gig, when he finished the gig at 1 o'clock or something, everyone went to the jam session in the swimming pool, and he stayed to practice. He was famous for it. Tony knew him very well. You know, it's a famous story. He was always kind of trying to improve. So if Michael Brecker and John Coltrane kind of felt in constant transition, also give it a go. Again, my most important message to you is to find your own voice. You have to sing. This is a kind of a very technical advice, but you have to sing. And what happened to you when you sing? You were singing with me. You actually expose yourself. It's a pretty vulnerable position to be, you know, especially if you are not a singer. You know, when I sang in a workshop to students the first time, it's frightening. Like shit. Yeah, but this is what it is. This is what it takes. There is to be good is a suicidal procedure, and it's better to die for jazz than for Pfizer. I have to say something. I always have something to say about something. All right.